Hey students, this is your hints video for lesson 9.1 on scatter plots. So for exercise 5, you're looking at the relationship between the height of a bouncing ball and the time since it was dropped. So on each successive bounce, we would expect that the ball rebounds to a height less than its previous bounce. Therefore, the data points will show a nonlinear relationship. It would look something like this. It's getting less and less each time. Then we have several problems where we're looking at a scatter plot and identifying what kind of relationship and whether there's any outliers, gaps, or clusters. So number 11, as an example, we can see that this is a nonlinear relationship. Obviously, it's not in a line. It's getting smaller, and then it's getting bigger. And if we had a point that was like way over here or something, that would be considered an outlier. But in this case, they're all kind of in this same little curve, right? So there are no outliers. Gaps is if you have a break in the data. So for example, let me use a different color. If these points all were not on here, you would say, oh, there's a gap between x equals 10 and x equals 15. But because we do have all of these points, there really are no values where we don't have any data. We have data for all of our x values, so there's no gaps. And then clusters would be if you had one spot where just you had all these data points together in one spot, that would be considered a cluster. We don't have any clusters on this one either. All right, for exercise 16, we have a few problems like this where you are going to create a scatter plot and then you're going to come up with a line of fit just by analyzing the data. So not with using technology, but just analyzing the data. So first you're going to plot all of the points. So we have when memory is 8 gigabytes, the price is $200. So that's one data point. I'm going to put right here. We have when memory is 16, $230. When memory is 4, $120. I'm going to go ahead and pause and put the rest of these points on there, and you should do the same. Okay, so I've got all of the points on there. We can see this is definitely not a function. It would not pass the vertical line test, right? It looks like we only have certain amounts of memory, and then the price varies depending on the computer. So we can see that there is a weak positive relationship. As the memory gets greater, we do tend to see a higher cost, but there's not a super strong correlation where it looks like the points are in a straight line. Then we're going to identify any outliers that we see. So this point here is a little bit of an outlier. There's no points anywhere near that one. So that's the point 32, 250. So that's an outlier. And then we're going to say, and it's because it has so much more memory than the others. Okay. And there are gaps between x equals 4, x equals 8, and x equals 16. So there's like a gap in here that there's no computers with a memory of 6 gigabytes, for example. There's no computers with a memory of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. Because these are the only available options for memory. So we're going to pick this one right here. Okay. There are clusters along x equals 4, x equals 8, and x equals 16 because these are the only available options for memory. So this is the answer to both of these. That explains why there are gaps, and it also explains why there are some clusters.